What is your with the investors, as you talked about a little bit about your investors,
Mhm.
uh, given the current economic conditions, what are their biggest concerns at this given point of time, and how do you manage their expectations?
Yeah, so one thing, a lot of them, now they're all different, right? They all invest with us for different reasons. Some are looking, a lot of them obviously want the high return, and that's hard to find in the multifamily space right now. So we've pivoted to doing some single family projects with a lot of our investors, and we're able to offer them a very different type of opportunity, but it tends to come with a higher yield. So that's a benefit that we've been able to offer them. But some of them are also just looking for wealth building.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I am here with Jeffrey Donis from Donis Investment Group. Jeffrey started off at a very young age of 18, and he's done a lot of progress in this short span. He's 22 years of age right now, with about he has got five multifamily properties, a total of about 1,000 doors and about $100 million of assets under management. We would love to listen to Jeffrey's journey in this particular in real estate, and what made him partner with his two brothers who have helped him with this successful journey. So Jeffrey, welcome to REI Secrets Spilled, Fast Track to Riches. This is where we are, open about the challenges that everybody faces, the secrets that everybody, can get to understand the challenges as well as the advantages of being in real estate. So welcome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you for having me on, Sanjay, and I definitely look forward to seeing if I can bring any value to your audience. And
Absolutely. I think so. Let me ask you this, Jeffrey. At the age of 18, a lot of students out there, I think it's just right after high school, right? A lot of the students have difficulty trying to understand which college to go to. Do they even, what they want to take as a curriculum? You were dead on, like, this is what I want to do. I want to get into real estate. So what made you make that decision? And tell us a little bit about your journey.
yeah, so to give you some context, my two brothers and I got started in real estate about 4 years ago. We grew up with a single mother in a low income household. So my mom did an awesome job, in my opinion, raising us. But obviously, with just her, it being her on her own, money was always scarce. So my brothers and I share a common goal, which is to retire her and to be able to become financially free ourselves. And I think a lot of that stems from growing up the way we did. So in regards to when we graduated high school, I was on the traditional path of going to college, mainly because that's what I had been told my whole life. And that's what my mom wanted me to do. So I ended up going to a university. So did my two brothers. And my older brother was the one that eventually came across real estate, specifically a niche called wholesaling. So that was really what opened the door for us in the real estate space. And I started taking action on that in 2021, and I was 18 at the time. So we eventually got our first deal. I took a break from school once I got started in real estate with the wholesaling, and eventually we landed our first deal and slowly just kept learning different niches and strategies to acquire properties. Obviously, we didn't have that much money when we first started, so the goal was to do as much as we could with the resources that we had, which were obviously limited. So we were networking, taking a lot of action via like YouTube and podcasts, doing as much sort of self-education as we could, so that eventually we ended up learning about multifamily, and that piqued our interest. So ended up joining a few mastermind groups along the journey, but that's really what piqued our interest at first, was really retiring our mom and becoming financially free.
Awesome. No, that's really really nice, and your mother has really raised you kids very well. So that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about, like you did mention that you had to read books and YouTube and networking events. So did you have any formal kind of like through any mentorship programs that you had joined, that you
Mhm.
had paid for, or it's everything that you learned, like underwriting and all of those things? Did you just learn it on your own?
Yeah, for sure. We had a lot of different free resources on YouTube and podcast books. And I'm still, obviously, I think everyone should always be a lifelong learner and consistently engaging with different types of content. So we continuously learn to this day via those methods. But we joined a lot of mastermind groups since we got started. So initially, it was one called Sub 2, and it taught us how to acquire single family homes via creative finance methods. And then we eventually, once we got into the multifamily syndication space, joined a mastermind group that focused on that. And in that group, we were really able to fine tune our underwriting skills, which is what my brother focuses on for us. And then I was able to tap into an awesome network of mentors and people that were a lot more experienced than us and that I was. So that way, when you're in a room with other people doing what it is that you want to do, it can obviously take that sort of a vision that might seem very far, and it can bring it down into something that was initially abstract into something that seems very realistic, just based on the people that you're talking to. And slowly you start to ask better questions. You start to take some action, ask more questions, and tweak the actions that you're taking. And slowly you start to get closer to realizing the vision that was initially just an abstract thought into something that you've actually accomplished. So through the multifamily mentorship and the different mentorships that we've joined, we've been able to learn a lot. But a big part of what we've been able to do and what we plan on doing is because of the network that we've been able to build as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let me ask you this: like everybody has a challenge when they get started. So what was your challenge when you first got started, and
Mhm.
what are the challenges that you're seeing today in personally in the real estate business?
Yeah, I think to give something that comes to mind is staying patient. And I think right now, for example, that initially it was the same challenge because you want to go and get your first deal, or you want to go into the multifamily space and get your first deal there. And sometimes you have the opportunity to rush that, and that might lead to you doing a bad deal or doing something that you might not have done if you knew certain things. So I think it's important to stay patient while taking action. Now, obviously, initially, I was trying to get my first wholesale deal, and that took a long time, a lot of calls, and it was good that I was trying to rush it. I think obviously you take more action for that reason, but that's something that I struggled with at that time. And now, given the environment that we're in currently on the multifamily side, there's not a lot of transactions going on. And I think it would be a big flaw on our end if we rushed into a project right now. So what we're doing is we're being diligent in the underwriting, being very patient in regards to the deals that we even look at. And if there's no deal flow 1 week, we're not going to just be aggressive on anything that we see just to do a deal. It's mainly us being patient and trying to be very sort of critical in regards to how we approach deals, because I think right now, I mean, there's opportunity coming, but there's also uh, we don't really know where the market's going. So I think it's very important to be patient right now, and that's something that we struggled with at first, and that we're still struggling with now.
Yeah, no, I completely understand where you're coming from because it's no different for us as well. Because it was interesting. Like last year, we closed only on one deal. The
Mm,
reason why, because a lot of the other deals were just not worth investing in. That's number one.
mm,
So I understand where you're coming from, Jeffrey. I think it's very important to think what is in the best interest of our investors
yeah,
who are trusting their money with us and going with our guidance because they believe in you and me. That's why they invest money in our projects, right? So
right.
that's important. So which tells me like it's good that you're very conscious about it and you're not rushing towards it, which is a I think a good attitude to have in this
Yeah.
business. So what are the markets that you focus on?
Yeah, so I live here in Durham, North Carolina, and for our multifamily side of what we do, we focus primarily on the larger cities and suburbs, submarkets outside of those cities here in North Carolina and in South Carolina. So the big ones, Raleigh, right outside of Durham. Durham's right outside of Raleigh. Charlotte, the Triad area, which is Winston-Salem, Greensboro. And then in South Carolina, that includes Spartanburg, Columbia, Charleston, and Greenville as well. So I am looking to be more local, meaning not far from where we are. And all of those markets are within 3 to 4 hours at the most, with a majority of those markets being within 2 hours of where we live. So obviously very strong markets. We're very happy to be here and blessed to have grown up in an area like this where there's continuing to be a lot of job growth, population growth, and just a lot of demand for housing. And obviously, there's not a lot of it. There's a lack of housing nationwide, but we're very happy with the markets here, and it is very difficult to find deals because of that. But as I mentioned, we're just being patient and trying to take opportunities when we see them.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Well, I do have properties in North Carolina, and I actually have a self-storage and also, a rental apartment in
Hmm.
Winston-Salem. So yeah, no, I always, but
Yeah,
at the end of the day, as I say, North Carolina is growing, and
yeah,
it's just very, very expensive, and making the numbers work with the situation with the interest rates and everything going on, it can be a challenge. So but yeah, I'm still looking for some good deals out there, so yeah, maybe we can partner on some of them, if you find
yeah,
something
for sure.
nice, right? So so when you started off, you
Mhm.
said that you come from a very humble background.
Yeah.
So because this would be interesting for those who always feel that, hey, I need to have a college education, I need to have X number of dollars in my bank before I get
Mhm.
started, and some of those, and they hesitate, right, to they take that step. What would you tell those people?
Yeah, I would say, now granted, everyone's situation is very unique, obviously. So some people might not have the education, some people might be young, like I was, or they might just not have money, or all of the above, or something else that I didn't include. But for me, what I started with was I changed the content and what I do with my time. Just start at a high level, and then slowly that included, instead of watching Netflix or doing things like that, I was reading books and listening to people I look up to, like the owners of Blackstone and Ray Dalio, people like that. So you just start to continue to educate yourself. And slowly I came across real estate, but for these people, that builds your knowledge, that you can sort of move forward in any aspect with more confidence because of the knowledge that you have. And slowly that might lead you to also want to seek out other people that are like-minded in that way. So for me, that was actively pursuing different networks locally. And then eventually I started joining different mastermind groups. And that expands your mindset. It expands what you see that is going on. Obviously, if you're growing up in a certain situation, the way I did, where obviously as at 18, there's no one buying real estate as a generic statement. And in my circumstance, that was evident. There was no one buying real estate. They were partying and doing things like that, going to school, which is granted everyone to each their own. But when it comes to, when it came to me and sort of what I started to envision, what I wanted my life to look like, that was, as I mentioned, becoming financially free and building a business. I realized quickly I wasn't going to be happy. I didn't think my purpose would be fulfilled if I just went the normal route of getting a corporate job or something like that. So I realized that I probably would be better off building my own business. And once I decided that was what I wanted to do, then I started to seek out different things and resources and groups that would help me get there. So obviously, coming from my background, I started with what I had at my disposal, which was the free content, and then joining different mastermind groups. And as my business grew, I was able to join different mastermind groups that, have that threshold, sort of a barrier to entry. And then that expands your mind and your abilities even more, just based on who you're surrounding yourself with. So I keep going back to the network, and it seems a bit cliche and redundant, I'm sure, to a lot of people, but that really what it came down to. And I still actively am networking all the time, trying to learn more from other people and see how I can bring value to. But that's what I would say to anyone that's new or comes from some type of background that it can seem like it might be very limiting, but I think it's all at the end of the day a mindset.
Awesome. Yeah, you seem to be a pretty organized kind of a person who has figured out how to use his time intelligently and also use your resources well. So that's great. So, do you have any tools that you use when it comes down to staying connected with people? Because you talk about networking a lot. So obviously, they
Mhm.
always say, right, your network is your net worth, right? So
Yeah.
how do you stay connected, making sure that everybody knows what you're doing and things like that?
Yeah. So a big part of what we do is our brand. So one thing is being on social media. And if that's not social media, you can have a podcast or some other type of thought leadership platform that one helps you connect with others. Two, I like to think of marketing as the first step to sales. So whatever you're looking to do, there's some type of marketing or sales that is going to be involved. And for me, I do the investor relations and capital raising. So when I am branding, it's really just putting myself in a position of leadership and sort of as an expert in the field that I'm in before I get on phone calls and connect with other people, whether that's a partner or an investor. So that's a big piece to it in regards to a tool. And then on top of that, when I, for example, am on LinkedIn, I'll actively network with people there, and I use a CRM, which is a customer relationship management system, and it pretty much helps me keep my network organized. So I'll add all the people that I speak with into that platform and keep notes and try to keep in touch with a lot of those people. Over time, obviously, as you add notes, that way you can remember what the conversations were about. And I love my main sort of tip to that is I'm able to not only remember what we spoke about and who that person was, but also how I can bring them value. And I can also keep them in mind when I have something that I think I might need, and I can go ask them for that. So it's hard to keep in touch with a lot of people if you're always networking, but if you can try to be intentional with it, you'd be surprised how much value you can bring to someone if you just simply remember what they needed. And then when you talk to someone else, you can just make a very simple connection that would take you 2 minutes to make. But I mean, it's just a compound effect, and I think it definitely pays a lot of dividends, even if you don't want it to. That's just how it works. You give, and awesome things come back. That's how the world works, and yeah, that's how I've been able to utilize that platform.
Lovely. And what CRM do you use?
I use a simple one called Podio
Okay.
for just that, but we have different softwares for our investors. So
Okay. So I see that you have obviously you had mentioned earlier that you spend a lot of time on YouTube on learning. Obviously, it looks like you are an avid reader as well. I see a lot of books right behind you. So
yeah.
tell me some of the books that are your the favorite, and I would also like to know why did you
Hmm.
why are those your favorite amongst the rest of them?
Yeah, great question. So I like to read a lot of different types of books, but I think a lot of the people in your audience probably have heard of a majority of them. So one that comes to mind is David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me.
Mhm.
That one it's big on mindset, and so I'm a big believer, and I think God is like the main reason why or he is the reason why I'm where I am today, and I continue to move forward in faith because of God and my relationship that I've been growing in that. So uh I like to think of myself as a warrior for my faith, and people like David Goggins, when they talk about their lives and their journeys, it's a good reminder and a good example of how you can be a warrior in different aspects outside of business. For me and my brother, for example, that's our health and our fitness, and you apply that mindset to your business. It's sort of like it's crazy to me how much that can like make you leaps and bounds ahead and put you leaps and bounds ahead of where you would be if you approach it any other way. So that's one book. And then this other book that is behind me is called What It Takes by Stephen Schwarzman. He's the founder of Blackstone, CEO of Blackstone. It's just really cool to take a biography of him. Really cool to learn how he got started. And I always like to think if you can look at someone who's doing something in the space that you're in at the highest level, and you can learn some principles and values that work for him, even if you're starting at a smaller scale, which most likely we all are in comparison to him, then there's a lot that we can learn and implement today. And also, I think it's very important to have a vision of where you want to go. So, for example, you want to build a company like Blackstone one day, then how else could you get that vision and sort of get like a very solid, crystallized version of the vision if you don't know what it looks like? So it's very cool to hear how his story, how he got there, and it helps me sort of keep my vision in mind every day when I wake up and while I'm doing the things on my business today that obviously don't look like what I'll be doing later, but it's just good to keep in mind. So those are my two books that come to mind.
Awesome. So tell me, Jeffrey, what does your day look like? You know, from morning till evening. Like, what time do you wake up? Or
Mhm.
do you do any kind of? I'm pretty sure you know. You talked about mindset, so you do any kind of affirmations to set yourself up. So
Yeah.
tell me about a little bit about your day.
For sure. So I wake up at 4:30 with my twin brother, and then we'll do some yoga for 10 minutes. I'll do some meditation, prayer, and then I read my Bible for a little bit every day. So it's about 15 minutes, and then I journal, and then we'll go to the gym for an hour to hour and a half. And then lately, we've been adding some fitness that we'll do like a 3 mile run in the morning. On the weekends, it's a little longer. But after that, just take a cold shower and then get started on my day. So typically from 9, and I'll do some stretching before 9 because of all the cardio and the working out, you can get pretty sore. And I want to not be like, I don't know, I don't want to hurt myself. So I like to stretch. And then I will do some affirmations throughout that time period as well. Usually it's just me writing to God and sort of seeing what he's trying to tell me that day and then how I think I can implement that throughout my day. And I'm a big believer. So when I look at my business and everything I do in my life, if, as long as I keep that first in my heart, I think everything else comes sort of will come naturally, and I'll position all of those things and make the right choices if I have the right heart posture when I approach all those aspects of my life. So that's how I start my day. And then from 9 to 8, my goal is to be very productive. So I work. Usually it's from 9 to 10:30. I'm a big learner, so I'm reading uh, a lot of different articles, and I like to get two economic articles in, and then two real estate industry specific articles. A lot of those are current events that are happening, whether that's with mortgage rates, interest rates, the Fed, and then obviously the multifamily market, what's going on with rent rates, things like that. And then outside of that, once it's like 10:30, I'm usually either on calls all day on LinkedIn networking, or I'm looking for deals on our single family side of our business. So uh, obviously things come up and you have to put those fires out, but that's usually from 9 to 8. I'm trying to be productive on my sort of with my work.
What is your with the investors, as you talked about a little bit about your investors,
Mhm.
uh, given the current economic conditions, what are their biggest concerns at this given point of time, and how do you manage their expectations?
Yeah, so one thing, a lot of them now they're all different, right? They all invest with us for different reasons. Some are looking, a lot of them obviously want the high return, and that's hard to find in the multifamily space right now. So we've pivoted to doing some single family projects with a lot of our investors, and we're able to offer them a very different type of opportunity, but it tends to come with a higher yield. So that's a benefit that we've been able to offer them. But some of them are also just looking for wealth building. So that's something that if you're not obviously in, I don't have to go into the specifics, but the single family projects that we're working with them on doesn't necessarily do that. So that's an active and ongoing challenge that we're working with them through. And they obviously have concerns. A lot of the deals that they're seeing that are being sent to them because they don't just look at our deals are they think, it's very difficult to predict certain things like right now, like what the cap rate will be on a deal when you exit, what interest rates will be, things like that. So they're looking for very conservative underwriting, very safe assumptions, and things that they can make sense of. For example, in Texas and Florida, insurance rates are very high right now. So just based on certain markets, they're not looking to invest in. But that's why it's a blessing to be in North Carolina because most investors that I'm speaking with love this market. And as long as you have that really good relationship, and they obviously understand that we live here, so we have that competitive advantage and really understand it. We're able to overcome that concern that they have. Really, I'd say one other thing that comes to mind is the 10-year treasury and bonds and things like that are paying a pretty decent interest rate right now. So it has to make sense, and they don't necessarily want to take any risk if it's not really worth their time. So if you're offering a 5 to 6% return, that's probably not going to be worth it to most of my investors because of that fact that they can just get that in something safer. So having an opportunity that makes sense for each investor is difficult, but that's why I think it's important to have that relationship where you understand what their goals are, what's most important to them. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of creativity in regards to as a firm finding opportunities in certain asset classes and just being able to continue to build financial relationships in these turbulent times because opportunities coming. So I think the most important thing that we can do as operators is to continue to build investor relationships, investor trust, so that when the opportunity does come and it is time to buy again for your firm, given the whatever niche you're in, you have the ability to go and raise that capital. Because I think any entrepreneur, that's the most important skill, in my opinion, that can help you scale and sort of seize the opportunity once you see it.
Awesome. So Jeffrey, this was wonderful. You definitely, I'm pretty sure a lot of these youngsters who want to get started, you're giving them a lot of hope into this one. So that's good. And if they need to get in touch with you, what is the best way to get in touch with you, Jeffrey?
Yeah, we have a website and our lead magnet. Sorry, our the thing that we like to give any investor that's interested is a checklist that pretty much allows them to have these certain questions in mind when they're considering whether or not they're going to be investing in something. It's just www.donisinvestmentgroup.com/checklist. And you can also find us on every social media platform, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok even at Donis Brothers. And then we also have a podcast as well. It's The Real Estate Monopoly.
Oh, lovely. No, it was Jeffrey. Thank you so much. Obviously, we will put that in our,
Mhm.
when we release this, we'll have that as well. So,
Awesome.
first of all, I want to thank you for your time and sharing your journey. It was very interesting, and thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate your time, Tajay. This is awesome.